Hi, I'm Mr. Watson and I'm going to be teaching you economics. This is slightly unusual because of the lockdown, having to do all of this by video, but that's me, Mr. Watson, by way of an introduction. So, um, what we're going to do in our first lesson is an introduction to what economics is, and then the distinction between micro and macroeconomics. So let's dig into this. So I would say economics is the study of choice and human action. We have to make choices in our life because the things that we value are scarce. A good example of something that's scarce is time. There are only 7 days in a week and there are only 24 hours in a day. That means that doing one thing typically means giving something else up. Today, for example, will only happen once. We never get to replay it. So, for example, you could choose to spend the next hour today reading a book or surfing the internet. If you choose to read the book, you'll lose out on an hour's worth of pleasure that you could have got surfing the net. On the other hand, if you chose to spend the hour surfing the net, you'll have missed out on the knowledge that you could have gained from reading a book. So you can see that economics is all about choice. If you do one thing, that necessitates, by definition, giving something else up because scarce resources are finite. We have to make choices. Doing one thing means giving up something else. Okay, so that's a basic introduction into what economics is. So economics, one more time, it's about scarcity and choice. The A-level Edexcel economics course is subdivided into 4 sections, or as they describe them, 4 themes. Themes 1 and 3 concern microeconomics. Themes 2 and 4 are about macroeconomics. So what we're going to do next is to explain the difference between micro and macroeconomics. So let's start with microeconomics. The economy is composed of thousands of markets. Markets enable people to trade something with other people. Examples of markets include the market for Indian restaurant food, the market for houses, the market for haircuts, and the market for cut flowers. In the market for Indian restaurant food, for example, households who want to eat delicious dishes like chicken tikka masala buy food from other people who run restaurants who make a living selling this type of food, selling Indian food. In microeconomics, we'll study markets on a case-by-case basis. Let's take the UK housing market as an example. Over the last 2 decades, the average price of a house in Britain has more than doubled. An economist studying this micro market might be interested in trying to find out why this has happened, like why has the price of housing in Britain soared? To do this, they'll design an economic theory or a model. We'll study what these theories and models are and how they work. Microeconomics also concerns firms. Why, for example, why is it that some firms are more profitable than others? What causes firms to grow? What causes some firms to decline and die? So what role does competition play in all of this? Finally, we're also interested in microeconomics, in how individual consumers make their decisions as individuals. In my opinion, mainstream economic theory correctly assumes that people are rational. I think this really does describe how most of us behave most of the time. Generally speaking, we'll do something if we believe that the benefits of doing it, whatever it is, are greater than the costs of doing it. And this can apply to anything. You'll buy a Mars bar for £1 if you believe that the Mars bar will give you more than £1 worth of satisfaction. If you think that the Mars bar will give you less than £1 worth of pleasure, you'll rationally choose to keep your £1 in your pocket. And it's the same for anything else, even in sort of human relations. You'll choose to go out with a date with somebody if you think that the benefits of going out on the date for you personally outweigh the costs, and the costs might be, I don't know, the bus fare going to wherever you're going to meet up, or it might just be the opportunity cost of the time that you're going to spend on the date. Like, you know, if you go on a date, you might have to give up an evening watching Netflix. So in general, in microeconomics, we assume that individuals, firms and consumers, entrepreneurs, we all make decisions separately, and we make them rationally on the information that we happen to have at our disposal. Okay, so that's microeconomics. Macroeconomics, in contrast, is the study of the economy in totality or in aggregation. In macroeconomics, then, we study economy-wide issues. We're not looking at individual people or individual firms. So in macroeconomics, we look at issues such as what causes unemployment across the whole economy, and what should governments do to try to minimize it. There's lots of different ideas about this, and sometimes economists can disagree with the policy recommendations that are put forward by other groups of economists that they don't happen to agree with. So in macroeconomics there's a lot of debate because economists have conflicting theories, and we'll look at all of those different theories. So other macroeconomic topics that we look at is growth and the standard of living, and why some countries are richer than others. For example, 30 years ago, South Korea was an economic basket case. Today, on a per capita basis, it's richer than the UK. And why is that? What's caused South Korea's living standards to accelerate and drive past the UK's? That would be worth knowing, I would say, because maybe policymakers in the UK might stop pursuing idiotic policies and maybe start copying some of the successful policies that the authorities in South Korea have used, which actually might involve them doing less rather than more. We'll also look at issues, maybe topical issues like inflation. I'm speaking now on the 20th of April 2020. There's been a lot of money printing going on. Inflation is a general rise in the price level. Inflation is fairly nasty, especially for poor people that struggle to get pay rises, because inflation causes the cost of living to rise, and it reduces the purchasing power of wages that people receive. So in conclusion then, microeconomics is about the study of individual markets. Macroeconomics is the study of the economy in aggregation. For the next term, which starts now, I'll be teaching you microeconomics, and we'll be starting with theme 1. I'll be teaching it in syllabus order, and everything will be posted up, everything that you'll need on Google Classroom. Okay, I hope that you found that reasonably useful. Okay, speak to you again.